Hello, and a very warm welcome to this training session brought to you in partnership with the Google News Initiative. Digital publishing success, our key topic today, as part of this comprehensive overall look at our business strategy as we move down that road from traditional publishing to what we can offer online. And gosh, fast changing times, aren't they? My name is Seamus, independent journalist and multimedia trainer, and I'm joined today by Louise in the chat. That's where the conversation can take place as well. Your questions and comments. Do say hello to Louise in the chat. Give us your name. Tell us where you're calling in from, even the company you work for. You're very welcome for this training session. As we can see there on the screen, digital publishing success, part of the suite of lessons under the overall topic business strategy. And actually, let's begin with a bird's eye view of where this lesson fits into the suite of overall courses, becoming a successful digital publisher. As you can see there, this is the first lesson as part of business strategy, digital publishing success. You can see there, establishing a digital newsroom. That's our next lesson, which takes place in about an hour's time. Maybe you're signed up for that as well. And then I think it's tomorrow or the next day, growing your readership. That's also part of this lesson, the suite of lessons on business strategy. As you can see there, a whole host of different lessons: audience development, looking at creating content for digital, optimizing your digital assets, crafting digital newsletters. Also, you can see they're very important at the moment: data management, understanding your data, data-driven content. Can you tell NCI from RCI? News, consumer insights, and also real-time content insights. And then advertising revenue, another host of lessons there. And then reader revenue, looking at things like reader revenue models, assessing the opportunity, alternative income streams. So lots to get our teeth into there. This is the first lesson, as I say, and we'll jump into that straight away. A nice way to begin this training course is to make sure that you're going to get the most out of this training. And of course, we are going to want to show you a variety of options available to you as a publisher, this shift from traditional to digital. However, it's really important for us to say this right up front, that these are just options. As we all well know, the world of digital publishing online, very complex. Each and every business, different challenges, a whole different audience. And of course, a varying amount of resources available. So while we're going to show you case studies, action plans, tips, and further resources, lots of links and suggestions also from Louise in the chat, all of these really just suggestions, and we can't stress that enough. So whatever action, whatever next step you decide to take as a publisher, that's really going to depend on your business, on your circumstances, your needs, experience, and of course, your overall aims. So just important for us to point that out right up front. Another key question at the very beginning we like to ask: why does this matter? And of course, we know, as you can see there, the world of news continuing to change, I think, by the week. Speaking to a news manager just yesterday, saying that it seems that every day there's something new. And actually finding the answer, actually, it's very personal. And a lot of people are hunting around for answers. There's no set solution for everybody. So exciting times, though, because there are lots of different options to discover, lots of different solutions to explore. As you can see there, this actually was a survey carried out at the end of 2019 by the Reuters Institute. More than 230 media executives took part in this. And actually half of them saying that reader revenue is going to be their main income stream moving forward. As you can see there, just 14% pinning their hopes on advertising alone. Interesting. Just over a third there. I think it's going to be really a mixed bag, advertising and reader revenue. So, of course, change inevitable. And really the message we're hearing at the moment that this is going to be driven by a disciplined, a clear mandate from the top. Lots of different debates going on about this. What is the right mix? And we'll be looking at that as part of our business strategy models as part of this lesson and throughout the whole suite of lessons. But it's just great to have all of this laid out in front of us. So we have the tools, we have the material, we have the ideas as we try to walk down that path serenely, we hope, moving to this new digital world when it comes to news. So we've broken the lesson down into 3 focus areas. The digital value proposition, as you can see there, what types of media are available to online readers? We'll look at some of the digital tools available to us. As I mentioned, digital publisher business models, so just some of the ideas, looking at some case studies as well. That's always very interesting in these courses, just to find out what other people are doing. How can you repurpose existing content to reach more readers to save time? So really making sure that if we have a journalist working on one story, that we can reuse that in the digital sense and really get value for money, also just to make sure that we're hitting all of our targets. And then our third focus area, the digital strategy. What are the options? What are the options for you when it comes to delivering to the readers of news? And I know it says they're news readers. We're not talking about news anchors, but to the readers of news. So all of those people hungry for news. Of course, at the moment, what's going on at the moment, lots of people going online to get the latest developments on the war in Ukraine, for example. COVID really brought this up. People looking around, they want information, they want it now, and they want it where they want it. So how can we build those repeat visits? How can we make sure that people are coming to us as a priority? So looking at that as our focus area as well. So let's dive straight in, starting with this topic at the beginning, digital value proposition. You may already use this term in your organization. Maybe you work alone in a small team, small, medium-sized. This should be a term that everybody should be talking about, the digital value proposition. And I think it's worthwhile really digging down into actually what does this mean? What is a digital value proposition? And sometimes it can be good to look at those 2 components in turn. And perhaps we can start with the word value with a capital V, splitting this expression into its 2 components. Maybe it will make the concept easier to understand, especially when we're linking value up with the word digital. So perhaps we can start with a question. What would you pick up? Would it be a glossy magazine, or would it be a news supplement, if you like? A broadsheet may be cheaper. So if you're interested in sports, for example, here's just a scenario. Which of these would you pick up from the newsstand? Would it be the tabloid with a sports supplement containing a pullout of the latest action from the weekend? That will be low cost. Or are you going to go for the glossy sports magazine, in-depth interviews from the biggest sports stars, etc.? Just some of the examples. And of course, that would be more expensive. Quite easy to see the difference then, the value proposition coming into play there. And when we're thinking in an offline world, perhaps easy, we know how to do that. But add the word digital into this mix, and really things seem to become a lot more complex, and that's why we like to take a look at this. So let's start with the word value. Of course, as I said, a value proposition, perhaps nothing new to a lot of you, something you're probably already talking about, reflecting on as an established publisher, but it may be helpful to break it down to look at it from new angles. And actually, what we're doing in this lesson, we're applying the 6C model developed by Dave Chaffee. Now, he's a well-known digital marketing guru, if you like, an author. And he came up with this model. It's actually based on the 6 C's of motivation. This is recognized in higher education. It's a tool that's used as a way to improve classroom motivation, student participation, etc. But now applied to news publishers, digital marketing. So There are 6 C's. I promised you that, and we see only 4 on the screen, but actually that's because the most useful, the 4 that we think are the most useful when talking about value for publishers, we've listed those there: community, choice, customization, and convenience. Actually, and just for those who are wondering, the other 2 that are missing here, cost reduction and content, the other 2 C's, just for reference. Perhaps you can look that up online afterwards, or maybe Louise could put that into the chat about Dave Chaffee. Customization, what does that mean? The personalization of content or products to individuals or groups. An example of that really, as I said before, the news as we want it, when we want it. The sense of community there, great sense of community now used, reflected on a lot when it comes to news organizations. We'll look at a couple of examples of that in just a moment. Things like, as I said, the sense of community, but it's also really getting in touch with the customers. So customer forums, interaction. So the customer's really getting involved in the troubleshooting for the organization, exchanging ideas, feedback, etc. Think of local news. Think of getting the local community attached to your local project. Convenience, that's a big one as well, one of the big C's. 24/7 availability, fast turnaround. Think of breaking news, for example. After sales service, we do talk about that, yes, when it comes to the media. Refund guarantees, so when things are not delivered, making sure that people get their money back. So convenience for the audience as well, and for our readers. And the last one there, choice. I think that goes without saying. A broader range of products and services. We can also look at different types of payments, for example, when it comes to choice. Flexible delivery, on-demand options for digital content, ease of return. Really talking here about a one-stop shop for everything, making sure that there's a choice for our reader when they're looking at our media content. So now, this is where we bring in the word digital into this. Perhaps what we saw before, you've already been thinking about that, but we put these 2 words together, the digital and the value, we're trying to achieve, falling into 2 parts for us here: reaching your audience, bringing your content to life. So we have these 2 columns, as you can see there: search. Through searches, reaching your audience through online searches, through social media, advertising. Word of mouth, and that's a big one. And that's something that a lot of people are talking about at the moment in terms of influencers, for example. So word of mouth, very important. And then, of course, something more traditional, email, but which we're seeing a lot more at the moment. There was a bit of a dip, and now emails are coming back. Email newsletters, for example, that interaction with the audience becoming very popular again. And then bringing content to life, that's a big part of the value of digital. So, of course, having a website, making sure that there's a home base for people to come to really just to verify who you are, what you're all about, really seeing through the windows into your home. Apps, videos, audio, the interactions that we talked about there, some of that customer interaction. And then all of that leading on to how you're going to deliver the digital. And then we talked there about speed, not necessarily quickness or being fast, although that does help, but really just in terms of how people can have access to what you're delivering. So how are you delivering, getting that across in the most efficient way possible to your readers, to your audience? As we said at the beginning, we like to focus on case studies because it's good to see what people are doing at the moment, what your colleagues are doing, your peers. So examples of publishers getting it right. And people who we've seen in the media, and it's not just us saying that they're getting it right, but it really that, they have increased their revenues, they've increased their readerships. Really, it comes down to the statistics when it comes to these publishers getting it right. So the first example we can give here is Tortoise Media. This is the so-called slow news site founded by James Harding. He's an ex-editor of The Times, ex-director of news and current affairs at the BBC, very well known now, Tortoise Media. And what they've really focused on, community and interactions through technology, choice, intelligence, and networking. So Tortoise Media speaks a lot about the fact that it felt that mainstream news, the media, were not really working as best as they could. So they proposed this radical solution. It's a subscription news service focused on including the readers, fostering the sense of community, networking, investigating news stories using intelligent data reporting, so data journalism coming in here, and focusing on slow news. So this concept of fast news, there's not enough time to go in depth, and then the slow news to really reflect on what's going on to increase reliability, accuracy, and trust. So the value proposition, as we can see there on the screen, really the sense of community, a big one when we look at our 6 C's in the previous slide, and also then bringing content to life. So of course they have a great website there. As we mentioned, these subscriptions, they have podcasts, for example, links up with YouTube as well. We're taking the central forum of discussion and decision making in the newsroom and inviting people in from all walks of life. And I think that's one of the key quotes there from James Harding on that example. Another example here, this is Denik N, an independent digital and print newspaper in Slovakia. So, right across Europe, founded in January in 2015 by journalists, previously worked for the national newspaper Denik SME. Denik meaning daily paper, I understand. N standing for Nezavislost, or independence. So the paper focusing on on creating longer news stories. So a little bit like Tortoise, so slower news or longer news, really trying to engage readers to differentiate the paper from other media outlets. So it's independence, and that's a big word for the paper, the N there in the title. This is communicated consistently across all of the digital channels, the website, the apps, subscriptions, etc. And we had somebody there from Denik N saying that, we learned that we have to be digital first and focus on journalism that matters, not the average 500-word stories that every news site has. And as we can see there, media experts in the country said that this is an absolutely impossible venture, and we were really risking everything. So seeing success there now, Denik N as well. Another quote there from somebody from Denik N, just interesting looking at that case study, creating a new medium that no one is going to suspect that it serves someone other than the readers. So that's an interesting business concept there as well. Another example of where this is coming into play, where we've seen success, Pink News, working to connect readers who care about a particular LGBT plus issue to those advocating for equality in our society. As you can see there, you've probably heard of Pink News. After reading a news article or watching a video on an issue that they care about, readers actually, we're hearing, they really find a concrete, immediate way to take action. So that's really this thing about call to action. It's really investing in the reader who wants to actually follow up on what they read. And that's a big debate going on in lots of news organizations at the moment, maybe even at your place, making sure that what you're producing, there's actually a button to click on. There's actually something that the reader can do to take their interest forward. At the moment, for lots of news organizations, it's really just letting people comment, to share, or to like an article. So the Pink News advocacy platform is actually part of the wider Pink News offering. And this is for readers who want to do more, as we say, connecting them, for example, to charities, to activists who are striving to change the world in the same way that some of the what's being talked about in Pink News. So offering the reader really a number of unique action plans that they can take after reading some of that content on Pink News. So very interesting what's going on there. So making sure that there is this after for the reader when you're reading the content. So maybe that can spark a few ideas for you as well. So we're talking about what digital value is, but really now it's also interesting to look at what the digital value proposition isn't. And what we're hearing a lot from the experts, from people who are getting this right, is really knowing that it's something that you should adopt, not because it's a trend, but because it's adding value to your readership. So it's adding value to your product. So it's not about technology. It's not about a technology trend. It's actually making sure that the technology is playing a role in your digital value proposition. So it's not the technology that we're selling. We're wanting to make sure that it's just a tool that we're going to use to reach an audience in new and exciting ways, but that it's adding value to our overall proposition as a publisher. So just a couple of examples. When the 360 cameras came out, for example, the all surround view, a lot of news organizations jumped on that. They said, great, new technology trend, let's bring that in. But it's actually deciding how can we use that to add value to our overall proposition. Are we wanting to give people that 360 view in our news stories? We need to make sure that we're choosing that tool for the right circumstances and not just using it all over the place with no real goal or action plan. So that's just one example. So 3 years ago, for example, another example, The Guardian convinced that virtual reality was going to enter the mainstream. So that was back in 2016, the end of 2016. The Guardian announcing that it actually had launched a 2-person team dedicated to exploring this virtual reality. The dedicated VR app, Guardian VR, debuted nearly a year later, but is actually working at how this fits into the Guardian's overall value proposition, and not just throwing virtual reality into the mix, but without thought about how it can be used. The New York Times also there, I see in 2015, they launched their own virtual reality mobile app, and actually went on to create quite a few different projects, but actually really looking at how that could fit into the overall mission, the overall value of the newspaper. Let's just look at another example here, artificial intelligence at the Telegraph. So talking about technology, where we wanted to make sure that we were bringing technology in the best and the right way possible. So the Telegraph actually working with Thornton, and that's an audio-first AI chatbot. It can inform, advise, and it can guide readers. That's the aim. Thornton expected to transform both the way that users are interacting with the paper's journalism and also the ability to build that meaningful relationship with readers that we've talked about. So the point of this is that the Telegraph has its brand value. Artificial intelligence is not one of those, but they're saying that it's going to be a technical tool for implementing our brand value. So as you can see there, we'll provide improved, automated, personalized customer journeys as we broaden the scope of our interactions and transactions with our customer base. Nick Hugh there at the Telegraph. So we can see that AI is a tool. It's not a value of the publisher. Bringing this in under the umbrella of data, technology, automation, AI. So just an example there, just to get your thought processes going on that, just making sure that we see this difference, not just jumping on the latest trend and hoping for the best. Another case study here when it comes to automation, all things digital, Radar, brought in by the Press Association. So this was actually thanks to funding from the Google Digital News Innovation Fund, creating Radar. This is software that actually uses artificial intelligence to improve on local news reporting, in fact. So using artificial intelligence to crawl through data sets to fill in stories with a lot of that data that otherwise wouldn't be used. So it's a form of automated reporting, if you like, enabling the reader to get facts and information, statistics, data that could be relevant to them. The algorithms are working that out based on the geography, the interests of the readers, etc. We are seeing this a lot now with a lot of these digital companies offering services to news organizations. So artificial intelligence, crawling through data and then providing this set of statistics and information to news organizations. We're already seeing that, particularly when it comes to breaking news, crisis situations, so artificial intelligence with that. But as you can see there, the Press Association really developing this with this tool called Radar. And as you can see there from the editor-in-chief at the Press Association, what we're trying to do here is create more localized content, bringing good human reporting together with clever automation. So this partnership between the human and the machine, if you like, and a lot of people are talking about that at the moment as well, as being very, very important indeed. So that raises the big question for you. Are you showcasing your value in this fast changing digital world? That could be something that you could comment on in the chat with Louise. Don't forget to ask your questions. We'll have a question and answer session at the end of this training course. Open it up to some questions. And also don't forget, actually on Wednesday, so that'll be tomorrow, on the 3rd of March, just getting my days mixed up here, we'll actually have a roundtable session on all of this. So that's actually on Thursday, isn't it? The 3rd is on Thursday. So 11 o'clock GMT, there's a roundtable where we're discussing all of what we're talking about. That's the business strategy suite of lessons. So if you're not signed up for that, that could be very interesting. And that'll be a chance for you to interact actually, with us in real time. So you can ask questions. We can have a discussion with both myself and Louise on this. So do put your questions forward. So let's just map out where your value offerings are going to be and explore the digital tools that you can use to amplify the message that you have. Considering really how digital tools could be used to really bring this message home about your values to your readership, to the wider community. So finding out what other online publishers with similar values are doing, what tools they're using. So, for example, you know what social media can do, but what can it do for your values? How are other publishers using social media? Has it been successful? Could you improve on that? So that's just one of the things there as part of digital. You can see there another word, video. We all know about video, but what can video do when it comes to your values? And as we see there, your sense of community, customization, choice, and convenience. So that's the activity that we would encourage you to launch, to take part in with your colleagues, with your staff, with your investors and what have you, with your readers as well. Just seeing how you can tie all of this in together. So now the other topic we had here, the second topic today, digital publisher business models. We want to focus on that, the option for business models for you. And we're asking the question, will readers pay for their news? And that's very important, isn't it? Some will and some won't, as we can see there. People are growing more comfortable, though, with subscription services. So it's not as hard as it used to be. In the last few years, people, I think, really have become accustomed to this idea of paying monthly subscriptions, haven't they, for things like Netflix, HBO, Spotify, Deezer, adding extra storage space in iCloud or Dropbox, for example. I myself have lots of these accounts now. I'm paying monthly charges. Also paid versions of favorite apps on smartphones, tablets, laptops. So the more often people run into something they like that's based on this subscription model, we're hearing that the more familiar and natural it feels to pay monthly for digital services. So that's good news for those who are looking at that for their income source. Also, new payment technology has made it much easier to convert visitors to paying subscribers. So readers can now get access to locked content very, very fast indeed, almost in real time, 5 seconds sometimes. And this really reinforced just one recent study there we looked at, indicating that this growing percentage of millennials will pay for the news. But they will usually only buy a single membership. So as you can see there, some will, because of the brand value, they connect with that. There's quality, they recognize there's quality, they recognize the expert analysis, the truth, veracity They want to avoid adverts, for example, so they will pay for that. They will pay for the convenience, and some won't. And so then we're going to have to look at other options. But this is because maybe somebody's an occasional reader, so we want to get them more engaged. Too many subscriptions, that they're just absolutely overrun, just overwhelmed with everything that they can sign up for, and they're subscribed everywhere else as well. So how might they pay for their news if they are willing to? So if they're prepared to pay, how are they going to pay? The usual methods, as we've mentioned, the subscription memberships, as you can see there, and also donations or contributions. But as we say, lots and lots of options available here for those who are willing to pay to tap into that revenue source. So looking at the some won't column, how can you as a digital news publisher earn from those people? So we're not just going to completely ignore them if they don't want to pay. We're actually going to try to look at other ways that we're going to drive revenue from those people. So this is going to be through adverts. So that's more traditional. But then, advertising when it comes to online, that's going to take on a whole new meaning. We talk about affiliates as well. So they won't pay on your site, but maybe they will pay through an affiliate, and that will stream back to you. And also e-commerce. A lot of companies looking at that as well. So having products and e-commerce, getting involved in sites involved with e-commerce, making sure that we're tapping into that revenue source as well. An interesting moment to take a look at some case studies on this. So publishers finding this balance between ads and subscriptions. This is Expressen. This is a newspaper in Sweden. So like many other newspapers, for many years actually held back from charging for online content. A lot of concern about whether this was going to reduce traffic, whether readers would be unhappy. But in the end, like a lot of other media organizations, Expressen found this balance between ads and subscriptions. And actually, at the moment now, we talk about a freemium model. So freemium. So it's this free model and a premium model mixed together. So some readers willing to pay for it, others are not, but they can keep on reading the free content like before. So freemium, we're hearing a lot about now. Expressen followed actually in the footsteps of the German newspaper Bild, and also two of the largest newspapers in Norway. They also chose this freemium model. It's not going to suit every news publisher, but it could be an option to consider. We're seeing actually lots of examples of this now, really trying to go for this this mix. Expressen saying that it really was aware of the fact that a premium service really could hurt its overall strategy. So they really took that concern seriously. But they say now that's no longer a concern with this with this mixed bag model. And we had a quote there from the newspaper saying that we've come to the conclusion that we can now add a subscription solution on top of our goal to become the largest media provider of news. So that's an interesting quote there from Expressen. So that raises a question for all of you. What should we be doing? Should we be looking at a mix of free content with ads and premium content for paying subscribers? That'll be the question you're asking. What we would say is not necessarily. It depends on you, the publisher, of course. As we say, every situation is different. And there are other ways to respond to what's happening in the industry. As we saw there at the very beginning, let's just look at those figures again. We know that things are changing very fast, week by week, and it's going to continue to change. And we will have a lot more innovation happening in the industry. People will find other solutions, and this could be something that you'll keep on your radar, keep your eyes open, ears and eyes open for what's happening on the ground. But digital publishers really, constantly reviewing, evolving their strategies. That's the key, I think, making sure that we're not closed off to ideas, that something that didn't quite work at the beginning may actually, grow wings and take off afterwards. So it's not closing off to some of these solutions, and just, looking at that reminder there for the future. more than a third of those media executives interviewed by the Reuters Institute saying that it's really going to be this mix of advertising, reader revenue. 50% reader revenue, but of course at the moment still a lot of news organizations relying on print and a lot of them relying on advertising at the moment. So a lot of these really are just options that people are chewing on at the moment. Let's just look at another case study. I think we have time for some more case studies on this. So El Correo, one of the top-selling daily papers in Bilbao, the Basque country of northern Spain. So after grabbing 4,500 digital subscribers, El Correo saying really they hit a plateau. Page views dropped. Advertising revenue didn't fall as much as they feared, but this was because the most expensive ads were the ones on the homepage, and those were not behind the paywall. So actually in 2018, El Correo relaunched its pay model, building what they called a more rounded value proposition. And if you just look at the figures there, by March 2019, they reached 12,000 subscribers. So from that initial 4,500 going up to 12,000, that has to be proof that something was being done well. And so the company actually put more items behind a paywall. They marked those pieces as such. I think that's important. So being very transparent about that. And the paper says that journalists actually focused on topics that were important for the readership. So they introduced stories about female sports, for example, local football teams. So they engaged with the audience, with the readers, to find out what they wanted. They also created, for example, just looking at this case study in more detail, a true crime section. Local reporters actually resurrected content from the archives. They wrote about things that happened in their city a few decades before, this sense of community, people saying, oh, yes, I remember that, long form journalism as well. Very interesting. So this relaunch really did work for El Correo, as we can see there, reaching 12,000 subscribers in March 2019. And the editorial director there at El Correo saying that we're much happier now because we can see that our marketing strategy is working, also because the new model is helping us transform our newsroom. So let's go back and look at The Guardian, because they also launched initially, didn't they, the membership model back in 2014. And according to a news article published at the time, this original scheme focused on a rolling program of events, discussions, debates, interviews, keynote speeches, and festivals. So really engaging with the readership. It had 3 tiers, so friends, partners, and patrons. Friends didn't pay anything. Partners paid £15 a month, I think it was. And they also got discounts and priority bookings for some of those events. And then patrons paid £60 a month. And they had an extra level of access. So really this bonus, if you like, for those willing to pay that £60 a month. It was a big moment for The Guardian. It made a lot of noise. There was a lot of noise about this, around the world for the media. And actually, a few weeks later, The Guardian overtook the New York Times as the second most popular English language newspaper website behind the Daily Mail. But actually, the paper's finances didn't actually look good. Circulation was cut in half in a few years. It had just posted an annual loss of £30.6 million. And they were going to go on to lose almost 230 million in from, I think it was 2009 to 2016. So with other British newspapers setting up paywalls as well, that started to come, and many wondered whether The Guardian was going to follow suit, in light of that financial situation. So they had this great idea about the membership model, but really the finances had to be thought about. And so The Guardian's membership model started to take shape actually back in 2012. But it was at the end of the fiscal year of 2018-2019 that The Guardian actually really then took off. 655,000 regular supporters, 365,000 members, recurring contributors. So this was a remarkable turnaround. So this was putting its editorial mission at the center of the membership program. So the management actually changing tack. So during that period, the data didn't support the initial vision. So they recognized that, passing around the plastic bucket, having those events and festivals and what have you, just wasn't enough. And people actually were willing to pay for loyalty. And the editor of the paper at the time, so people on editorial, not good at things like logistics and flexible pricing. Commercial people sometimes don't trust that incredible bond between the reader and the journalist. They don't quite get that. We'd published an incredible range of stories throughout the years. So many people said, I will support you because we think you're a newspaper that should be supported. So that's, we spent time on that because that's a really good example of this shift. So having the membership model, having all of these events and these different categories for paying, but actually realizing over time, looking at the readership figures and the finances, that actually people are actually going to be willing to pay just because they value your product, because they agree with you. There's this sense of community. They share your values and they want to be loyal to that. So that's a great example there. Let's just quickly move on to our third topic. So digital strategy. No two publishing businesses the same. We can always look to other models, other strategies, but really success will be determined by our own approach and our own strategy. So just looking at this, we can see here the timeline from traditional to digital. And I think the point to make here is that this is not going to be an overnight transition. We know if we look at this, this sample timeline, we can see from the traditional publisher's point of view, the starting point, knowing your audience, writing great content, daily print publishing, those are the constants that will go all the way through. But actually, we can look at an alternative starting point now when it comes to digital, improving the experience. And so in the digital world, the product offering is going to be more fluid. We can develop further in many ways over time, opportunities presenting themselves. So it's really looking at our transition from traditional to digital, just thinking, well, I'm not going to start at the traditional starting points, but maybe even starting with the digital products, the user experiences and what have you. So let's highlight some of those new priority areas. So readers, data, and digital assets, all very, very important. And I like to see the fact there that readers number one there, so the people at the heart of all of this, then making use of the data and making use of the tools and the assets. And that's the big question for you as well, isn't it? Have you considered all of your priorities when it comes to all of this? Are you putting the focus on readers, data, and assets? And so actually, this is the first lesson in a suite of lessons that we're offering as part of this Google News Initiative training. And actually, this is a good moment to signpost some of the key training areas in the series taking place this month and also right into April. You can sign up for those. Louise will be sharing the links in the chat. So when it comes to readers, we have workshops. When it comes to audience development, so getting to know your new empowered readers, looking at the journey that they're on, making use of data, your data. How can you use it? How can we make sure that data is actually providing us with the keys to our success? And we have a whole series of workshops on that, data management. So don't forget to sign up for those as well. And then digital assets, just like the printed products. You are going to love your digital assets. Just make sure that you're prioritizing. So we have a whole host of lessons as well going through from March to April, optimizing your digital assets. And, perhaps we can just finish on this point. Quality journalism does matter. I think that's important from a journalist's point of view. I think we're in the media business because we do think that quality journalism does matter. It can be mixed in the digital world. So making sure that, in the online world of content, that we're using the user experience, the personal service, relevance, impact, etc. some of those key areas where you can build upon news in a digital world, really helping you to get the message out there, but really still building upon your quality journalism. So just a quick summary before we finish what we looked at today. So the digital value proposition, we can tick that off now. We've looked at that. Hopefully it's got your thought process going. The digital publisher business models we looked at, and also the digital strategy. So the options you have to deliver to the readers of news, to your readership, and to make sure that people are coming back. So repeating those visits. We do like to open this up for questions. I've been rattling on a lot. We've had a lot to get through, a lot to get our teeth into. Hopefully that has sparked a lot of interest. I'm just looking now at this communication I have with Louise to see if we have any questions. Any questions from you watching this lesson today? At the moment, no questions. So we must have covered all of the bases, which is great. So, and as I say, if questions do come to mind, don't forget that on Thursday, we do have this roundtable session. So really you can sign up for that. So the next lesson in about 15 minutes time, we will be starting our next course about establishing a digital newsroom. But as we say, on Thursday at 11 o'clock GMT, there will be actually a roundtable covering this. And actually, as you can see there on the screen, the next lesson, as I say, in 15 minutes time, establishing a digital newsroom. And then also you have growing your readership, also taking place before Thursday. Then the roundtable on the whole business strategy section with both Louise and myself. And then, as I say, through March and April, also looking at these other lessons where we're really digging down deeper into some of these introductory topics we talked about today. So audience development, data management, as we talked about, advertising revenue, very important, establishing your advertising strategy, and then also reader revenue, really digging down into a lot of those models. Don't forget, as I say, so deep dives. So that's the roundtables we talked about. There's also a thing called labs. So this is the GNI Digital Growth Labs. Louise will be sharing links for these in the chat, hopefully. So the labs, a number of other training labs where a lot of people are taking part in these. A lot of actually the feedback and a lot of the suggestions and the ideas coming forward in the news industry are actually coming up from a lot of these sessions, the GNI labs, for example. And also don't forget feedback, very important for us. It's very important to know what you're interested in, what you want to hear more about. This is how we can evolve and improve our support to you. All of us as trainers, independent journalists, trying to give you the heads up when it comes to this transformation from the traditional to the digital. So thank you very much. I see that there were no questions from you watching. So thanks very much. Maybe I will see you in just under 15 minutes for our next lesson, which is on establishing a digital newsroom. We'll dig down deeper into some of the topics we talked about. And if not for that lesson, then maybe you're signed up for the others. Do check out the link. Louise will have put that into the chat. And if you want to sign up for any of those other lessons, you're very welcome indeed. So thanks very much for joining us. And we do look forward to seeing you again soon. So from Louise and from me, have a great afternoon. Hopefully see you soon. Bye for now.